Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Commentary is Magic's stream today on Saturday, June 17th. I am, as always, Graham Paulus.
I'm Emperor Bugle.
Big Cheese.
The Not So Angry Aracat.
Living Silver.
And I'm Ponka Po.
He's Ponka Po.
No,
Okay, so today we've got the first half of our meta retrospective where we'll cover notable decks and archetypes since the releases of Marks of Time, starting with BronyCon Gen Con today. And then the second half, we will do a little bit of time travel, cover the European and Australian continentals, followed by BronyCon, Pacific PonyCon, BabsCon 2014, and Everfree Northwest 2017, excuse me. I did say time travel. So, yeah. The format we'll be using for this retrospective is fairly simple. For each deck, we'll give a 2-minute description of it, what makes it tick, and some other observations. Then, we'll give about 3 minutes to discuss the deck, during which time we'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions about the deck, too. So, feel free to chime in and chat, and we will see what we can do about addressing your questions, comments, and concerns. Also, a brief PSA. Tomorrow is Father's Day, which is why we're doing this on Saturday rather than our usual Sunday. With that, Big Cheese will take it away with that deck that everybody has loved to hate for the past 2 years. That's right, it's Pile. Cheese, take us away.
Best deck ever. Alright. So Pile's had a long history, originating in Crystal Games, and just getting stronger as more sets were released. It launched the Marks in Time meta with a bang, taking 3 of the top 4 spots at BronyCon, and ultimately resulting in an emergency ban of Penny Lane right before Gen Con. Pile is, at its core, a combo deck that relies on Pile of Presence and DJ Pwn 3 Every Pony Shufflin' to force your opponent to draw cards during their main phase and score points using Pile of Presence. During Marks in Time, we saw 2 different color combinations, mono pink and pink purple, both of which built their entire decks around the Pile win condition. Mono Pink Pile relied heavily on its 3 copies of Penny Lane and 6 copy effects to get the AT needed to play multiple copies of DJ Shufflin' in a single turn to often score 6 or 10 points on the opponent's turn while devastating their hand. It also packed 9 card slots with Dismissal to extend the game long enough to reach its win condition. This version of Pile played closer to a turn 1 combo style than some previous versions. The pilot would focus on gaining AT and filtering through their deck until they had the resources to score at least 6 points, frequently 10. Pile had a good matchup against most decks. Its main troubles came from decks that had immediate friend or resource dismissal. It performed well enough and consistently enough that ultimately Penny Lane got banned, causing Pile to never return. Well, until its new incarnation, that is, at BabsCon.
Okay, so what do we think about this mess? I'm glad it's gone. Not really, I love to play this.
Lots of people are glad it's gone, let's be honest here.
Yeah, but how many of us are sad that it's gone?
Just a little bit.
Just a bit. I don't know. It was fun to play. It was a lot of fun.
I don't think anyone would deny that. It was a fun deck to pilot. It just wasn't fun to sit across the table from.
Drawing lots of cards is very fun. Being forced to draw cards and having the opponent score points, kind of less fun.
So, you mentioned that you've played Pile for a while, Cheese.
Yeah.
And many other players have as well. What was kind of the development of Pile over the years? How did it get to the monster that it was, where eventually it had to be emergency banned?
Getting more and more copies of Penny Lane.
Yep, more copies of Penny Lane.
I believe Adam's quote was, when a card is so good that you want to run 9 copies of it, there's a problem.
Yeah. And, copying DJ was great, but copying Penny, I think that's what I mostly copied.
Yeah, well, more AT, more fun, yo.
It depended. The deck had a large amount of agility due to all the copying effects, so between Penny and Shuffle herself. And then Penny, of course, is the reason that it got to the point where it could afford to play the shuffles in the first place. So.
Yeah. The copies were often better than the actual Penny Lanes because they would go to the discard so you could juggle and get them back too.
Yep.
As long as you had one original Penny, you were happy.
Yep. I did like seeing the spikes in popularity as those additional copies of Penny became available. So you had Pile that was kind of experimented with in Crystal Games, and people were like, oh, this is kind of an engine, it's kind of cute. And then Absolute Discord comes out and gives Queen Chrysalis Identity Theft, and then people are like, oh, well, that's a lot of AT I can gain. And then you get some hasty and immediate speed stuff, I guess just immediate speed stuff in Equestrian Odysseys, and people are like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then High Magic comes out and gives Dip in the Pool, and it just...
Yeah, it's also interesting to see that, like, Piles used to be 2-color, and then ultimately it just went, I just want to play pink. Like, Cloud Chaser and Hooves, that's all I need, and those aren't really blue cards.
In the original builds weren't actually centered around the combo, or they didn't get rid of other cards at the expense of it.
Yeah, they were more control-ish.
Or the original one I think was actually aggro.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there was that one Hooves build. Yeah, like, there was a lot of builds of this, but ultimately, I think the mono pink build just was too scary.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well,
and
the meta's probably healthier now that the deck is gone. It's at least more diverse.
It is.
Or is it gone? Well, that's next week.
That's next week. Okay. Let's move on to our next deck here, the other terror of the meta, Tantabuse. Bugle, tell us about this little monster.
So, after Penny's banning, most people assumed there wouldn't be a problematic combo deck at Gen Con, but then came Tantabuse, surprising almost everyone with its ability to effectively remove them from the game by repeatedly abusing Tantabuse's Chaos ability. Tantabuse's first, last, and only appearance was at Gen Con 2016, where 6 players were running it, 5 of whom had identical deck lists, 4 of whom made top 16, 3 of whom made top 4, including first and second place. Shortly after which, to no one's surprise, Tantabuse was banned, meaning the deck will never be played again. Tantabuse was purple, orange, blue, and white combo deck that utilized Gilda's ability to start a face-off when she comes into play, Minuet's ability to cause Gilda to come into play at the start of the opponent's turn, Tantabuse's Chaos ability to make all players lose all AT, and Doctor Who's Chaos ability to ensure you always had a Tantabuse to flip. This made the opponent lose all of their action tokens before even drawing their card for the turn, meaning very few cards even had the possibility to be played. Combined with the fast AT generation, Changeling Pretender and Trading Tradition's ability to provide rec for multiple colors, an obnoxiously difficult to confront problem deck, and an awful lot of utility, and it was exactly the beast it set out to be. The only thing that truly worried the deck was Pink's good suite of removal, most specifically Food Fight and Yoink. The goal was to amass all 4 combo pieces and have the opponent play a friend. Doesn't matter what their power or abilities are, or even if they're frightened. Gilda can and will challenge them to a fight to start things off. From there, unless the opponent had one of the few ways to stop the Tantabuse player, they'd effectively have infinite turns to score 15 points, with only the time limit to worry about. If the opponent never played a friend due to AJ Farm, the deck also ran a single copy of Frozen and Magicite, which, when combined with an F-Stop, made it so AJ would never be able to confront a problem or challenge a troublemaker ever again. And, well, that's Tantabuse.
So, that was a lot of info.
Good riddance.
Yeah. It was a lot of info for some interesting interactions.
It was bad and it should feel bad.
Like, finding this was kind of like winning the lottery, because it's like, wait, these things interact and they do what?
I found 4 great tastes that taste great together.
Yeah.
Unless you're on the other side of the table, and then it's possibly the most toxic, nasty thing ever. And yeah, good riddance.
Yeah, huge props to the players at Gen Con who had to face this, because the vast majority of them were like, wow, that is the worst thing ever, but they recognized this was a top-tier event and, sat through it, but no one wanted this to happen again.
I mean, generally, everyone took it in stride, and, by this point in time, it's been expected that you will see things like this creep up at the highest level of competition.
Yeah.
You just kind of hope every year it's a little less problematic.
We've had it every year.
I do like how decks started coming out just before Gen Con that were really trying to explore Doctor Who's to his fullest potential. And I think it definitely ended up shifting the meta even past Gen Con, and I think we'll see that a bit in our second part of the stream as well.
Yes, there are some other chaos control decks. This just happens to be the big baddie because it kind of wrecked everything and was so bad that it got banned, of course. But
Yeah.
I mean, Tantabus was really the problem here.
Yeah.
It was.
Tantabus really was the problem. Like Flutter Guy before her. Like
Playing the game with no
repeated
action
AT.
tokens.
Yeah. Not fun.
Nope.
Did anyone in chat have a chance to play against this or see anyone play against this? I know Gen Con was streamed, so you probably saw multiple games of this.
Railer and Ivory Starlight and Chaotic Spark. So we've got several people in chat who have had to play against this. All three of them actually made top 16 too. So
Gilda was really just the enabler for this. Gilda was obviously helpful in being able to start the face-off, but if you didn't force the opponent to lose all the AT, the worst thing that was happening was you were frightening one of your opponent's friends every turn.
Yeah, Gilda herself was not.
Gilda also has a fun ability come into play, start a face-off. Like, face-offs are supposed to be the most fun part of the game, and removing Gilda, like, we wouldn't be able to get things like the super rare mod, things that come into play, start face-offs.
Right, if you call Gilda the problem, you're restricting design space rather than Tantabus where it's just like, why did we print that again?
Yeah.
I do.
To break combos, bacon.
About
Yeah.
that.
I do remember it being a surprise when it was an ultra rare that was banned. So many people were thinking it's going to be something else, but I don't think Tantabus, and that the reasoning was simply because of the ultra rare.
Yeah, that did surprise people. People thought ultra rares were untouchable, but Interplay proved they will go after ultra rares, which is kind of a refreshing sign.
Yep. Any other thoughts we want to share on this thing? Or can we leave it buried in the ground?
I think this is best left behind us all. It came, it saw, or it conquered, it left.
Yes.
Yep. Let's talk about something a little more lighthearted and switch to one of the other high-tier decks at Gen Con. Leo, take it away with Balluna Pink.
All right, so Balluna Pink. Balluna decks in general were very popular within the Marks and Time meta. The particular deck that we're looking at now, throwing in Pink into the mix, ended up being a top 4 deck at Gen Con in 2016. As many people know that have either faced or played a Balluna deck, the central mechanic when playing Balluna is to first confront a problem, then to play a hasty friend to the other problem. Balluna then moves and follows that friend to the second problem, triggering a double face-off. Adding Pink to the mix offers 2 additional benefits that are common to the pink color. First, you get the discounted card draw, which we do see in this deck. The second is we get immediate hard dismissal. Because of this mechanic, being able to activate Balluna during the problem phase, we are able to see the mechanic requires very little AT, so the deck starts off fast, and then cards such as Night Glider, Overpowering, and Thunderlated are needed to keep that momentum later into the game. This deck did very well against aggro. In Gen Con, also did well against Zippo, and it was one of the few decks that could compete against Cantabuse. All right, let's see what other people feel.
No, Railer's right. Balluna is a fun main.
This is really fun to play.
It is. There's something fun about being able to abuse confront windows.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was really considered mid-range. Like this, if this gets a good start, this can absolutely hold a candle up there with the best.
Yeah, just because. Sorry, go ahead, Cheese.
The only bit I would say mid-range here is Thunderlane, but Thunderlane is just so amazing that you got to run him.
I actually disagree on that one. There are decks that don't really seem like Thunderlane is useful. It's just too expensive sometimes, and he's also a massive target.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, true. I feel Thunderlane was actually pretty essential to this particular deck because it needed a faster way to close out games, and it was willing to pay the little bit of extra AT.
Yeah, Thunderlane is just such a house, and one of the biggest impactful cards we saw from Marks in Time specifically for blue decks, excluding, of course, Tyrik's Reign of Terror.
Yeah, like looking at Yoshi's breakdown, I think Thunderlane and Tyrik's Reign were like the most popular cards at Gen Con. Well, top 16.
So Chaotic Sparks, I agree with you that saving AT for Food Fight might mean you're not playing, all in, but Yoink is completely free. And especially with cards like Thunderlane, Bluna is just so efficient in terms of being able to save as much AT as possible, especially with the Spitfires and the Sorens, which can get you a tremendous total of power, or a tremendous power total for very, very few AT. It was okay to not go completely broke every single turn. And yeah. I don't think it actually ended up slowing it down much.
Yeah. No, yeah. Soren sped things up a lot, actually. When I was talking with Team Pandemonium after the event, a lot of them were this was the deck that a lot of them were playing, and then some of them abandoned ship to play their tricolor aggro deck instead. And this one did better than the tricolor aggro deck. So Harry was like, haha, I got you guys. But yeah, they were very pleased with Soren's performance and Nightglider's performance. Or I mean, not Thunderlane's performance in this deck.
Yeah, it's not always correct for an aggro deck to just go all in on the aggro. Holding something back for control is often a really good strategy.
Like if you burn all your fuel, you might not make it to the finish line.
Yep,
right.
That too.
I think one of the things that we may discuss in a future stream or other production is about how the change to scoring problem bonuses has forced aggro to move away from being a I must confront every single turn to I must DFO every time I confront.
Yeah.
And it's really shifted because that's the best way that you have to be able to match the point acceleration that you had before. So it's actually far more common now within the last year or so to see aggro decks not confront when they are easily capable of doing so, just so that they have the burst resources necessary to completely confront every problem and then hopefully get the high bonus points.
Yep, an aggro deck that says Banco is a scary thing indeed.
I do like the ability to play 5 different dilemmas here with Tyrik's Reign of Terror and just clowning around with 2 copies of Fire when ready. It's certainly a lot easier than going the Ponyville Banner method, and 5 bonus feels so good.
Oh yeah. And with all its hasty, it could protect its Fire and ready too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that was the only deck that was doing that.
Nope.
Absolutely not, but that's a topic for another time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we've got more decks, so let's keep this moving.
What do we got up next here? Bugle, how about Zippo?
Zippo!
Puppies!
Snacks.
Okay. Have we got the memes out? Should I start?
Yes.
Yeah.
Teacup?
Okay.
No.
There we go.
Teacup Poodle.
So, Zipperwell Toolbox Control is one of the first tricolor decks to break out into the competitive scene and see repeated success. It performed well in both Harmony and Block events, earning several top 8 spots at various cons where it appeared, with the high point being a top 8 finish at Gen Con 2016. It uses all 3 of its colors, purple, yellow, and white, to great effect by combining Zipperwell's powerful ability to move characters whenever a critter enters play at her problem, multiple ways to immediately make and or move critters via events, and event recursion in the premier powerhouse F-Stop. Once properly set up, it is Zippo's goal to prevent the opponent from ever being able to confront a problem or challenging a troublemaker for the remainder of the game. Featuring a large number of individual cards and many one-ofs, the deck may seem unreliable at first glance. but in truth, this is one of the deck's strengths. Due to the 7 instances of Meticulous as well as Ancient Research, the deck can find its one-ofs with greater reliability than most other decks. And with F-Stop's ability to bring events back, a single copy of an event can be used whenever it's needed. Lastly, the deck features 4 ways to gain additional AT every turn, allowing it to always have the AT needed to do the many things it tries to do. Like most control decks, Zippo will frequently spend its first several turns setting up by flipping its main, playing covers, trying to get yellow for Zipper Will and white for F-Stop, and so on and so forth. This can cause the deck to fall behind in score, but once set up, it is a force to be reckoned with that the majority of decks can't easily deal with. Orange farming in most non-pink aggro or control decks are a breeze for Zippo, but blue farming can frequently best it by having more movement than Zippo can handle, and most pink decks give Zippo a hard time due to its high reliance on its friends that pink can easily dismiss. It also has a weak matchup against Combo due to Combo's ability to simply ignore problems and find an alternative win condition. But even when at a disadvantage, Zippo's toolboxy nature gives it a game plan that can save it in the end. Zippo has managed to prove its strength time and time again, making it unsurprising that it was one of the top-performing control decks in the Marks and Time meta.
So I just like to say one thing here. Snack.
Haven't we already gone through this at the beginning?
No.
No, memes never die.
Can never
Okay.
have enough snacks.
You really can't.
So, Ponka, you have played some Snicks in your day.
Yes, I have. And to really quick address Chaotic Spark's question, Destiny Drain actually was teched in at this year's Everfree due to the massive amount of combo running around. And Destiny Drain actually is actually really successful because before it goes from it's a combo player, I guess I lose, to actually having a potential out against combo. Also affects a lot of other decks too if you can Destiny Drain a key portion of their strategy.
The major problem it has with Destiny Drain, though, is it requires the opponent to get a combo piece in the discard, and with only a couple yellow Parasprites, that's not super easy.
No, it's not.
That's true, but yellow Parasprites win games.
Yellow Parasprite still wins games.
Turn 1, double yellow Parasprite.
I scoop.
That doesn't always win anymore.
It's not.
Good, but it doesn't always win.
No, turn 1, double Pinkie Pie Grump has a pretty impactful play though.
Oh, that's just mean though.
Turn 1 Changeling Barricade? Oh, wait.
Too soon.
Too soon.
I do think that this was my second most played deck after Pile. Maybe not during Marks and Time, but like in the year up before the Pile ban.
Yeah, during High Magic.
Yeah, High
this
Magic
is
getting Marks.
This is another one of those decks that's kind of fun to play, but I don't really like playing it because the look on your opponent's face after the 4th time that you've bounced something and moved all their stuff home, they're just like, ugh.
And
Yeah.
the best
People-
place to run this deck is Villain Challenge, actually.
Yes.
No, this deck is soft banned in Villain Challenge.
Yeah.
And I will pack up the deck and go home if I see this thing sitting across the table again.
No, Nightmare Moon doesn't want any of her puppies.
No, she does not. Now, here's an important question, because I noticed that as we were getting more and more spoilers for Defenders of Equestria, and we were seeing some of these yellow, white, and yellow, purple spoilers, a lot of people seem to be confused about what the purpose of these cards were. And I'm a little surprised by that because I thought Zippo was a little more visible than I guess it actually was. Most of the cards that are dealing with the AT generation, like the Sunburst or the Rarity and Fluttershy, could theoretically go in a list like this. What do we expect to come of this list now that these new cards are out?
It's going to work.
It's going to work?
Yeah,
You know
it's going to work. It's definitely going to work.
Yeah, I mean, the more events that come out, the more toolboxy it can get, so I expect some events to change, but yeah.
Do you think it'll increase the number of gyros it runs?
It might. Gyro is a powerful card.
Yeah, I've only kept Gyro at 1 for so long just because it's just so hard to cut another card out of it, but it might be feasible to put Gyro at 2 at some point.
I just love seeing Royal Guidance still see play. Saw play in Premiere, sees play now.
Okay, well, let's move on. Come on, Ara. Talk to us about One Punch Mare.
One punch!
All right, what was that about getting memes out of the way?
I'm done.
I mean,
Okay.
the deck.
Oh, you're
The
not.
deck was
All right, bringing blue farming back into prominence almost entirely on the power of two very good cards, Thunderlane and Burst of Speed. One Punch Mare burst onto the scene shortly after Marks in Time was released. OPM was a frequent sight, piloted by multiple people at many events. Notable placements were 2 copies in North American Continentals, not that we're talking about this, but a second place in AU Continentals, and numerous top 8 placements elsewhere. Thundermane makes confronting multiple problems and beating up multiple troublemakers during a single turn of breeze once he's got a counter or 2 on him. And it's easy to get him out and online due to the large number of face-offs the deck can cause. All that's needed is Rainbow involved in a face-off, which enables a burst of speed, followed by playing him as early as turn 2 and wrecking faces for the rest of the game with free movement. The rest of the deck is fairly customizable to suit any given player's style, but it often focuses on cheap movement and ways to ensure that face-offs are won. Because it's blue, it can also generally play a mean aggro game and pack a fair amount of frighten to disrupt opponents. Combined with troublemakers as an additional form of control, it tended to do really well against aggro decks. Anything packing food fight, and really anything with a lot of purple, did tend to give OPM problems because Thunderlane really doesn't like pumpkins, and he really doesn't like going through portals either. That removes his counter, and he's sad when he gets slowed down.
He's
Rarity
sad because
gets
he's
lost.
not flying.
Rarity gets lost in the process.
Yep. So this is another one of those decks. This is just really fun to play.
Oh man, yeah,
when-
I have a blast with OPM.
Yeah,
Can
when you get
confirm.
the magical Christmas time opening of here's a Starlight, there's a Troublemaker, I've got a Burst of Speed and a Thunderlane in hand, and turn 2 it's just boom, 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 everything's dead. And that's 7 points for me? Thanks.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, I wasted an AT. Oh boo-hoo.
Gotta go fast.
I paid 5 for the Thunderlane instead of 4. Woe is me. Oh wait, I have 7 points and 2 counters on Thunderlane. No, 3 counters on Thunderlane.
Uh-huh. And next turn, guess what we're going to be doing? We're going to be confronting again.
We're going to be DFOing and not spending a single AAT.
Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, a farming deck that goes fast.
Well, I think that was the big advantage or the big draw of One Punch Mare is it didn't pigeonhole itself into I just have to beat up troublemakers and this is the only thing I can do like some other farming decks have. It said, oh, I'm not drawing any troublemakers? Whatever, I'll just play conga line shenanigans and go ahead and DFO anyway. Oh,
Yeah.
I drew troublemakers, now I can move back to farming.
Yeah, it's an interesting contrast to Applejack farming, which when it's not farming shifts to control. When OPM isn't farming, it goes, I'd still want points.
Give me dim points.
Give me points. Oh, look, a Firewind ready. Well, here's a Tyrix Reign of Terror. Let me score 5 bonus points and not spend a single AT doing it.
That's not too bad.
Well, I guess
Hey,
you spent 1 for the
You
Tyrix.
did, you
Yeah.
spent 1. But still.
But that's a lot of points for 1 AT.
Yep, 8 points, 1 AT. Good value.
Well, 7 points.
About the only major thing I have to say about running this is you have to carefully consider the cards that have chaos effects that say when you flip this card, move a character. That
Yeah.
makes Rainbow really, really sad when she
There-
gets shoved away from the troublemaker.
There's
Yeah.
a
Ever
reason
vigilant.
I took out Chief Thunderhooves whenever
Yeah,
I ran it.
Thunderhooves, I kept pushing for it for a long time, but I ultimately agree Thunderhooves is more of a liability than he is a benefit.
Ever Vigilant has just spat in the face of so many people trying to run this deck. It's just one of the worst feelings in the early game because you just lose all that momentum.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I will often play the Thunder Lane before I flip, just in case it's an.
Well, you have to, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I mean, you know you're going to play the Thunder Lane, so...
Might as well get it out the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Oh, Ivory, you said Thunderhooves actually ended up helping you out?
yeah, against me.
Frightening things?
No, it let him move his zap to score his 14th point, and I'm like, oh!
That'll do it.
nice. Not
Fun
too bad.
deck.
Fortunately, 14 is not the same number as 15.
This
No.
is true.
Now,
All right.
yep, it's
Speak-
fun. We'll have to see what comes of it.
Speaking of chaos effects, let's talk about the other chaos control monster in the meta, Waking Nightmare. Grandpaws, take us away.
Sure. So, with the sudden appearance of One Punch Mare and the ever-steady popularity of Bluna aggro decks, Control found itself a little short on options heading into North American Continentals. But only 2 weeks before Gen Con kicked off, a new type of Control deck made strong showings at regionals and eventually went on to claim 2 spots in top 16, with one of those decks progressing to top 8. Waking Nightmare. Waking Nightmare is an orange-purple chaos control deck that, in a novel approach, tried to leverage resource advantage by heavily relying on flipped cards' chaos effects, in addition to a suite of powerful friends, events, and troublemakers. Since Doctor Who's time loop allowed the player to reuse chaos cards over and over again, Waking Nightmare could literally force opponents into a standstill with cards like Cheerily Break It Up, who could end any face-off she was flipped in. Additionally, using Chaos Capital of the World could return difficult-to-flip opposing mains to their start side, while allowing Princess Luna Dream Guide to become boosted again, banishing multiple cards from the opponent's hand. With a large amount of AT acceleration through Sunset Shimmer Clever Girl and AJ Factory Organizer, the player could afford to pay to draw several cards deep in the hope of finding key Chaos cards, and if the correct choice of which card to put on top wasn't immediately clear, setting a Moon Dancer would let the player choose in the middle of the face-off, giving the deck even more flexibility. With minimal deck disruption present in other Gen Con decks, Waking Nightmare appeared to be a good meta call, holding off farming decks like AJ and One Punch Mare with relative ease, and even preventing faster aggro mains like Scootaloo or Bluna from being able to break through. The inclusion of a select few anti-combo cards gave it an edge over other control decks at Continentals when facing Tantabuse, but its high requirement problems and lack of reliable point scoring meant that it was effectively dead in the water against the control mirror, especially when facing Zephyrwell. I like this deck.
You might be a bit biased.
I may be slightly biased.
It's still a good deck.
I mean, a lot of us have some bias when it comes to some decks on this list. Let's be honest here.
I was just glad. Sorry, go ahead.
I think I played it once, and it was actually at Gen Con. I did not do too well with it.
I think I played this once as well. I can't remember exactly.
It was...
Was it Waking Nightmare?
What?
It was definitely Luna.
Yeah, it was. You played it in top 16.
Right, yeah, that's what I thought. I wasn't positive.
I think this was also one of the first control decks to use Trading Tradition. We'd seen a lot of aggro decks using it, but I don't think we'd ever seen a control deck using Trading Traditions before. And you used it to such good effect, because Sunset Shimmer and Orange Luna, that's a good combo.
It's okay. It's not bad.
Like, when I saw that interaction, I'm like, mind blown. This is perfect.
It was a lot of fun.
I mean, Factory Jack.
Oh, Factory Jack is good, but doesn't give you the discard outlet, whereas Sunset Shimmer does.
Yeah.
The particular launch with O Luna is a great interaction for that. Because not only does it give you the discard, it also gives you the AT you need to fire it at the opponent.
Yeah, when sitting across from this, when the opponent plays that Sunset Shimmer, and you're like, oh great, I don't know when he's going to blow up my hand, but he is going to blow up my hand.
We had some pretty cool. There were some cool interactions with the Napcake shenanigans as well. I remember.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I'm like, I'm just going to deny all your purple, and you're like, no, I'm going to gain a card and then, or gain an AT to play this magical misfire to draw the sunset before the face-off. And I was like, oh, come on.
was
and then you flipped Cheerily.
Hey, the one thing I've learned about Chaos Control decks is if you trust in them, if you trust in the heart of the cards, you will get the best, most ridiculous blind flips you could ever imagine. Like, the whole deck is designed to set your top decks. Doesn't matter. It'll still perform for you. The one copy of Zap, it'll always come up in the most miraculous situation.
I know exactly the feeling. Playing Tantabus in top 4, I'm like, I could win this turn if this sneak attack was a Tantabus. Well, let me exhaust hooves. Oh, there's the Tantabus.
Dang it.
Now, Rayler, I agree with you. This one didn't necessarily auto-lock out every single deck it went up against, but there were some decks that simply had no answers. AJ farming could be backed into a hard corner where it literally had nothing it could do. And one of the key advantages, Chaotic Sparks, with having the one copy of Zap in here is, apart from using Dr. Hooves to kind of set the top of your deck and maybe wanting to draw a little bit deeper to find your best Chaos effect, you didn't actually have a lot to spend AT on. So if you flip that Zap, you could very well frighten the entire opposing board.
Yeah, and that's very notable.
The one thing I recommend to anyone trying to play a Chaos Control deck, and I'm sure we'll see more of them, is get a notepad, get a pencil, and write down the position of all cards that you know of on the top and bottom of your deck, because it is the thing that will make or break your games. It is also incredibly tedious.
Yep. So, Bugle, how about you tell us about a rather unique color combination of blue-purple called Too Spoopy?
Too Spoopy. So, yeah, like Ara said, blue-purple was not a very common color combination during Marks in Time, as most people preferred combining blue speed with another speedy color. However, Too Spoopy proved that this is a color combination that deserves another look. Due to the sheer amount of frightening and temporary banishment it runs, this Dark Horse can disrupt faster aggro decks and control players alike, ultimately allowing it to take one of the coveted top 16 spots at Gen Con 2016. Too Spoopy is an aggro deck, though one that can function as a control deck as necessary, with its 12 ways to frighten, 3 Goosebump Givers, and 3 portals. It even runs 2 copies of Under the Wire to increase its ability to play a key disruptive friend on the opponent's turn. To start out, it plays like a normal Bluna deck, and can function without drawing any purple entry for quite some time. But once it gets that purple, its options open up and it can slow down the opponent to a crawl with its ability to constantly and repeatedly frighten everything it sees, denying abilities, wreck, and confronts alike. To finish things off, it's got a pair of Night Gliders and a full set of Thunder Lanes to score a lot of points quickly and cheaply, while still using the majority of its AT to slow the opponent down. While strong against many other aggro decks and various control decks, Too Spoopy unfortunately has no answer to combo, and Orange Farming likely also gives it some trouble, though it's not hopeless there. But it's still a solid deck that rightfully earned its spot in top 16.
This is actually kind of similar, although it's not identical, to a deck that did very well at Everfree 2016.
Yeah, the Dark Jesters deck. I remember that. I think this one, though, focuses a bit more on the control.
It does. It's also got Thunder Lanes.
Well, Thunder Lane didn't exist, to be fair.
That's yes.
Yeah, this
was... Go ahead.
Interesting combination of aggro and control.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bit of a wild card. These are the kind of things that I hate running into because you have no idea what this is going to do.
And the combination in there of Zecora with the interdimensional portal is entirely frustrating to play against, because even if you frighten Zecora, she can still be portaled back into play at any time and redo her little trick.
Well, portaling is especially good with Zecora, or giving her hasty with Under the Wire is especially good with Zecora because it banishes it until the end of the turn, which is like, you can't do anything. Like, you can't even pay 2 to rally that yet. Like, that card is gone until end of turn, which is a great way to get rid of, like, carbo loaders or combo pieces or whatever.
Yeah, very, very good card. Interesting deck to play against. The surprising amount of Frighten that was here kind of threw me for a bit of a loop. The Goosebump Giver especially was kind of a tech inclusion, and I actually did like it in this list quite a bit.
Oh yeah, the Goosebump Giver was pretty hilarious. And to address Railer's point, when Interplay transcribed to the deck list, they forgot to add the 45th card. She actually did have a legal deck. I think it was another portal that she was missing. I don't actually remember.
It would make sense. There's a lot of things in this deck that would enjoy being put back into play again.
Yeah. The most interesting inclusion here, I think, is actually the Shining Armor, with no troublemakers in the deck.
Yeah, it's not running Training Traditions as the starting problem either. So
yeah, That's basically there because you can play it off of Philly Twy, I'm guessing.
Yeah, to get you your necessary 3 purple. And hey, competitive 2 is nothing to sneeze at.
No, yeah, absolutely not. And, if you do win that Troublemaker face-off, you get an AT.
The value.
The value.
But yeah, this was a pretty unique deck, and I liked playing against it, even if it was a bit one-sided.
I'd like to see Bluna explored a bit more with a few different color combinations outside of its usual. Who knows? Give us Yellow Hasty and maybe we'll see what we can do.
Oh dear. No. It's going to be a Yellow Hasty critter, and you know why we can't print that.
What? Zippo? Nah, it's fine.
I'd take that.
Of course you would. That's why we can't have it.
Can we, just carbon copy a Furball with Hasty on it?
That
No.
would be wonderful.
Plonka, what do you think?
I mean, it could, but
Jeez.
He seems somewhat hesitant to endorse this. All right, maybe no.
Amazingly fair and balanced card.
Yes, amazingly fair and balanced card.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh boy. Let's move on to a deck list that is, what do we got here? Blue Pink, called Blueberry Bubblegum. Leo, tell us about this one.
All right. So this deck appeared in the meta once during Gen Con 2016. Blueberry Bubblegum, as its name suggests, is a pink-blue deck fueled by Vinyl's incredible card draw. At its core, Blueberry Bubblegum is primarily a control deck, but it relies on a few key aggro cards in that combination and scores points very quickly. So as we saw in the blue-pink deck I described earlier, Night Glider Overpowering and Thunderlane are used to accelerate point gain and frequency of multiple face-offs. Thunderlane also uses his immediate speed to challenge and defeat troublemakers before they have a chance to slow the game's pace. We also see the Sorin and Spitfire combination that was present in Bluna Pink. Notice also in the deck the Party Favor Balloon Master gives Sorin even more delicious bodies to munch for power. One strategy that is different that this deck introduces is the ability to remove the opponent's friends by retiring them. Friends can be temporarily borrowed from the opponent using the old switcheroo, Hoop's peer pressure, and Queen Crystala's High Tyrant. Then Sorin chews those friends up to remove them from play. Even better, if those friends were borrowed during the main phase, they can be used to score points before Sorin munches them at the end of the phase. The deck has tools to deal with the gamut of archetypes, such as Cardboard Box for farming, or the Smooth Scavenger for F-Stop control by immediately banishing those events before F-Stop can bring them back. Furthermore, it has the card draw power to find those answers when they are needed. So what do people think?
So I find it funny watching chat here. Chaotic Spark actually forgot that he was running Fernando's in his deck.
Oh, is this what I'm running? Really? To be fair, Fernando's are a really good card.
Do like Fernando's.
Yeah, I don't think I played against this deck.
No.
I did
Does
either.
look interesting.
One of my locals has something kind of similar to this. It's infuriating to play against.
And I do think Defenders of Equestria has quite a few cards that look like they would.
Oh,
be good.
yes, it does.
I mean, you just swap a simple mix-up for the song straight up. It's just strictly upgrade. Maybe you run both, but you definitely run the song over it. And then Berry Punch, Orange Swirl, the Ultra Rare event, Sunset Festival. Yeah, Belly Flop. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, I see a lot happening with this deck or some decks similar to this in the new meta with all the new card grabbing cards that we have.
There is,
yeah, like Sunset Festival is one of them.
There is one really notable thing about this deck that no one's pointed out yet. His only entry into blue is Trading Traditions.
That's pretty greedy.
That is super greedy. Yeah.
I mean, if you get that Sorin out there on turn 1,
You're fine, right?
it's pretty good. I mean, the most common removal we saw that was running around in this meta was Food Fight, and that's not going to hit Sorin until he's already boosted in power.
Right.
Also, to be perfectly fair, we are talking about Vinyl here. The odds of her flipping on turn 2, yeah.
Pretty high.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think we saw any Deep Darknesses at this event.
We're going to see him this next year.
Oh boy.
Maybe. I mean, people
Yep.
keep stop playing Vinyl, and then everyone loads up on Deep Darknesses. It's like, I wonder what's going on here.
Yeah, the mirror match with this deck would be pretty interesting as well, with both decks having an opportunity to get rid of that Trading Traditions turn 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, the full 3 Snips and Snails, that's true. I do like the old switcheroo and Hoops here as in the mirror match like you're talking about. I'll just steal your Thunder Lane. Well, I'll just steal your Thunder Lane. Well, I'll just steal your Thunder Lane. Back and forth, back and forth.
Oh no, more important than that. Let me steal your Sorin and have him eat himself so you can't eat my stuff.
Have you ever seen a pony eat his own face?
But yeah.
No, although I'm not sure I want to. Christ. That's a little bit dark there.
It was a meme.
And one advantage
it?
that Hoops does have, probably the only advantage Hoops, in fact, is the only advantage Hoops has over Sonata Dusk, is that it does have the Chaos ability. And during a face-off, you do have the opportunity to grab somebody.
Well, I mean, you're also not banishing a card from hand. Like, that is a notable cost. Not so notable for pink, but it is notable. But another really important thing about this is a lot of people have been running Appaloosa to deal with pink, and this goes, that's cute. I'm just going to retire a friend. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Fun deck.
No. We're not going down that road. Thank you. None of that. Not on stream.
I think we're 2/3 done, man. Well, for the first part.
Well, yes, and we're going on in chat here, and it's just like, no, we need to not be doing that. Oh, all right. Moving on. Geez, you want to talk to us a little bit about Octavia Pink?
Sure. I can totally do that. So, various versions of Octavia Pink have been around the meta for a while, but its first major showing during Marks in Time was at Gen Con, where it took a top 16 slot. As is natural for Octavia, this is an aggro deck, which relies on white for point acceleration and tempo, and pink for removal and card draw. Octavia decks heavily depend on flipping their main, and this particular build acknowledges that by running a full 9 pink friends to be able to flip Octavia on turn 2. Standard inclusions like Rarity Breezified and Aloe are here to give large bursts of power for minimal AT investment, and despite only 3 dismissal events, there's a surprising amount of removal here. Sonata Dusk can combo with Lily to grab opposing friends and retire them to Lily to give Lily additional power. Octavia Harsh Judge is so versatile that it gave white aggro decks a solid defense against just any matchup except orange farming, which was handled by sticking their main in a cardboard box. It's essential in Octavia decks to keep your hand full so you can make full use of Octavia's power boosting ability. And let's get this party started, and Berry Punch will give you consistent card draw over the course of the game, with Soprano able to either affect yourself or your opponent depending on what you need at a given point in time. Though not running common cards like Snips and Snails, the deck still manages to break into Day 2 at Gen Con.
This is another one of those decks that's ridiculously fun to play when it goes well.
It is. I think I played a Octavia Pink at Everfree one year. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. And also, Chaotic Sparks, I believe you mean orange pink.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
White
Never
orange card.
And there is not an orange, white, or orange pink card in this deck. It's totally an orange white card, guys, right?
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Octavia is a fun deck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was more fun when we had bulk. Sad.
It was more fun when we had bonus problems.
That's true. This was really silly back when the first to confront bonus was still a thing, but that, of course, predates Marks in Time.
Yeah. Like,
Yep.
confronting or scoring 11 points in one turn with that deck was not uncommon when you could score the 3 bonus twice.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I
3
also
times.
love-
Yeah, I was about to say 3 times. Come on. This has RTOs.
I also love how well Breezy Rarity works in this deck. She's 0 cost and 2 power when you
And
drop
gets
it
you a
in.
point. Yeah,
And
she's
then
great.
she gets you a bonus point once you confront. Or double confront for the face off.
And probably win, because your hope here is that you're doing uncontested DFOs.
Lots of power.
Yes.
Well, like, even if you are contested, you're like, I have 30 power. How much power do you have? 12?
Huh. 37
Another
for
really
the
cool
12,
thing-
right?
Let's see what you flip. Oh, cheerily. Darn.
Darn.
What's up, Leo?
The cool thing about having Octavia as a main is she can also boost the opponent's characters, and you can force the opponent into face-offs that they may not be prepared to have.
Yep.
Yeah,
single
that was-
face-offs are actually kind of useful with the new rules.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They're
You get twice
super
as many
useful.
points. Especially if the opponent's sitting there like, nah, I'm safe. Oh, no, you're not.
You are never safe against Octavia. She
And
will
Octavia
force
can
that
also-
face off.
Yep.
And Octavia does allow you to do a single confront and not have to worry about the opponent causing a face-off at that problem, because the power goes away at the end of the turn.
Yeah.
Unless
Unless
you're
it's a
calling
mirror.
mirror match.
Unless
Yes.
it's a mirror.
Also, the return of Stand Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we
Stand
haven't. What have we? We haven't seen too much white. Aggro. I mean, there's blue
Yeah.
and white. And I don't know if those lists ran Standstill. But Standstill it's still a good card against other aggro
It's still a
decks.
good card, and I mean, a lot of people prefer Photo Op now, but nothing can surprise people as much as Standstill. Like, whenever I'm playing against white, even if I'm almost certain they're not running Standstill, every time I move a character, I ask, Standstill? Because
You're
it might
sitting
happen.
Just being nervous. Because you get the worst possible case. It's like, okay, turn 1, I'm going to spend my 2 AT and move my main up. Nah, you're not.
Standstill.
Stand still.
It's even better when they're not even playing white main or don't even have the power, and they go, all right, I'm going to
Banish Fancy Pants.
Banish Fancy Pants, stand still. You're just like,
What?
how am I supposed to see this coming?
You aren't. That's how.
It's working as intended.
3 standstills in a row. It's great.
Ugh, nothing is as tilting. Okay, there are several more tilting things, but that's pretty tilting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've discussed a few of them earlier today.
Yes, we have. I'm
Yep.
sure we'll talk about more later.
So
I mean, this next deck, some people.
Yeah, speaking of tilting things, Grandpa's, why don't you talk to us about what Applejack does best? Farming.
Buys some apples?
She
No.
sells some apples.
That's a
I'll sell you some apples.
Yes. Well, it certainly didn't come as a surprise to most players to see Applejack, Ambassador of Honesty, make it into top 16 at Gen Con. Her strength in Troublemaker farming decks has been known for some time, and thanks to her very helpful Diligent 2 on her boosted side, it's very easy to snowball quickly and leave the opponent in a position where they're simply unable to catch up. Most AJ farming decks tend to rely on a high number of extra flip events and limit their liability of relying on friends to defeat epics, in a very different approach to other popular farming decks like One Punch Man. However, this particular list from Gen Con 2016 took a more novel approach, incorporating many of the additional flip effects onto other cards like Coco Caruso and Big Mac Princess for a Night, in addition to the relatively standard cargo loaders. This allowed Applejack to play better around an early cardboard box, which at this point in time was a popular meta inclusion in most pink decks. Bailout, Popping Corn, and AJ's Epiphany are all fairly standard inclusions to give the deck several control options that could be used either to slow down hyper-aggro decks or muck up an opposing main's attempt to farm. The most interesting choices in this particular list are the copies of Coming Through, Tricking the Trickster, and Scootaloo Practice Makes Perfect. Coming Through gave orange farming a much-needed answer to cheerily Break It Up and Frozen in Magicite in Chaos control decks, and even Tantibus in Tantabuse to a degree. Tricking the Trickster let AJ remain in problems even after the opponent would start a DFO to ensure that she would be well-positioned to challenge a Troublemaker that would flip on the subsequent turn. And Scootaloo's Chaos effect could reduce the high point burst possible in blue aggro decks, as well as slow down opposing farming decks in the mirror match. With more friends than a typical AJ farming deck, this particular list is a little more vulnerable to hard removal like Food Fight, and despite the 2 copies of Coming Through, decks like Waking Nightmare can still back AJ into a corner. Additionally, the deck has a minimal hand and deck disruption to deal with combo decks, basically just Nightmare Moon and Starlight Glimmer, the villains. Still, orange farming has been tried and true since Gen Con 2014, and stands a good chance of beating most aggressive decks given a solid start.
Buy some apples.
So it was interesting to see AJ in at Gen Con 2016. Like, I think so many people were prepared for her because her and Bluna, they were the most popular mains at the tournament by far, both at 8. The next popular, I believe, was Queen Chrysalis at 5 or 6 rather.
Right.
And like only one of them made it to top 16. So, and like you said, this was a more novel approach, like had ways to deal with cardboard box and stuff like that. And I think that's why it made top 16 and the other ones didn't. Everyone was just prepared to see a lot of farming.
Sure. I mean, Waking Nightmare in particular, I don't mean to keep going back to it, but that was developed as an answer to the AJ farming and the One Punch Mare meta, because there needed to be a way to stop those aggro decks, and that just happened to be the most efficient form of control. But this deck is including answers to help deal with that in the 2 copies of Coming Through and some deck disruption. It almost certainly would have given it an advantage if it ended up in that particular match. And tricking the Trickster is also pretty cool here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You think about the Bluna decks that would be trying to start DFOs using dilemmas to get around troublemakers, and then, set AJ back a turn or 2 as she has to move back up to try to confront or to challenge troublemakers.
Nope, she's still there.
Yep.
Well, the other thing with the Trickster is if you play it after DFO, the game itself will dismiss all of the resources, in which case if there is a cardboard box that happens to be on Applejack, the cardboard box then gets removed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually like the funniest way to get rid of a cardboard box.
It's a pretty tech play. Now, the deck's not exactly in the best position to be able to start DFOs on its own, but if you can wait for the opponent to do so, then you're in a better position.
That is actually pretty hilarious.
I like the problem deck list as well. It's relatively common to see AJ almost unable to confront her own problem deck, and there are some cool inclusions here. Blackmail is pretty neat. Unreasonable Demands, Guilty Until Proven Innocent, Desperate Times, some cool stuff.
Social Obligation. This problem deck was like, yeah, I don't confront problems. I don't care. Yeah. Only built to help farming. But yeah, this was an interesting approach. And this is not the last time we're going to be talking about orange farming.
Absolutely
though it is today. But we have to next week. More orange farming next week.
Next week.
Yeah. Overall, pretty interesting list. Some inclusions that I definitely would not have considered were I to build orange farming, but I think they ended up working out very well here in this meta. A lot of earth ponies.
Yep. I mean, you got to farm somehow.
That's true.
Let's change topics a little bit here. Let's talk about Scootaloo and Pink. Grandpa's?
Sure, why not? Let's go for 2 here, huh?
Why not?
So Scoots had more than proven herself in the limited events leading up to Continentals, but combining her with Pink's controlling tools helped to create a versatile, aggressive deck with plenty of answers to troublesome opposing friends, and led to this particular Scootaloo Pink list securing a coveted spot in top 16. Scootaloo Pink, in this case, is a mid-range speed aggro deck that, rather than having to rely on extremely powerful single-turn plays, tries to leverage Scootaloo's repeatable free movement to gain value over time. Where Bluna decks are more explosive but can have a tendency to run out of gas in the mid to late game, Scootaloo can DFO nearly as frequently but for a much lower cost thanks to her ability to move friends at the end of the turn. Combine this with conga line movement through Lyrabon and further cost reduction with Cloud Chaser, and you end up with an aggressive blue-pink deck that doesn't actually have to spend that many AT to accomplish its goals. The question then becomes, well, what do you spend your AT on in this deck? And the answer is answers to your opponent's plays. Food Fight provides an excellent counter to high-value friends like Doctor Who's Time Loop or opposing Night Gliders and Thunderlanes, and the plethora of eccentric cards, including Lyra Bond, Cheese Shoes, and Sonata Dusk, help to delay opponents even while their friends' scoots, moved for free are still exhausted. Add in a few snips and snails and cardboard boxes, insert your own Scootaloo joke here, and you have solid answers even to farming. Sacrificing some of the speed or additional point acceleration present in other aggro decks in the meta helped give Scoots Pink a better matchup against Troublemaker-reliant decks like AJ Farming and Waking Nightmare. But without discard pile reshuffling through juggling routine, the 3 food fights had to be used very sparingly. This made its matchup against decks like Zippo that played drawn-out control or fast combo decks like Tantabuse less reliable. And with the deck having no immediate speed movement, it is vulnerable to numerous face-off tricks. Still, some solid meta calls here help shore up its few weaknesses and give it at least an average chance of taking down decks of any archetype.
So, who wants to play a 3-hour best 2 of 3?
I do!
No.
No.
Not at all.
What?
And that was 3.5 hours, thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Yeah, after
Sorry.
finishing my match, I had to wait like another hour while you guys finished your 3rd game. I was like, goodness.
He had Food Fight, man. I had to be careful.
You did have to be careful. He had a lot of tricks.
Also, if there was ever a match that proved that Tantabuse or that Tantabus was an evil card, it was this one. Because it ended up actually costing each player 1 game on a blind flip.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And if you play with fire, you're gonna get burned.
there's your proof. I
like-
really do like this list, though. It's so versatile with all the answers that it has here. It can do just about anything pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that it even has glimmers to help it get its Scootaloo to the problem. It knows it needs them. And it also has the starting problem. It's like 2 pink, 1 not pink. Scootaloo is 1 not pink. I don't like troublemakers. This sounds like a good problem.
Yeah, we actually saw that in the Octavia pink list as well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Though this one did happen to run a slightly fewer number of cards overall.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result is running slightly less entry.
Yeah.
It's only 1 less, I think. Yeah.
It is.
It's a
Pretty good number.
It is a bit greedy on blue, though, with Cloud Chaser. Like, if you can't flip Scootaloo, Cloud Chaser's the only way to get extra blue.
Yeah, you'd be in a little bit of trouble there.
Oh,
I mean, we
you
were so-
have to have a friend out to be able to play Rutherford.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
But
you
it's
do.
got Lyra Bond.
Oh, there's
So-
okay, yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lyra Bond, Cloud Chasers, and Night Gliders, yeah. Yeah, this was a impressive deck list, and, like, I'm a little disappointed it didn't get past top 16, but, like, he made you work for that top 8 slot.
It was a spectacular deck. I really enjoyed playing against it. I would easily consider playing something like this were I to play Scootaloo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with some of the answers that Pink has now in Defenders of Equestria.
Marks
I-
in time, yeah.
I hope he revisits this.
I hope so, too.
Fun deck. And it is nice seeing Scootaloo used in a constructed environment where she is far healthier than in a limited environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of Scootaloo, we've got 1 deck left, and this is another Scootaloo deck. We had we only had 2 total Scootaloo players at Gen Con last year, and they both made top 16. And here with the other Scootaloo deck is Aura.
Well, I, for one, thought that cardboard box joke was a bit unclassy. On the other hand, darling, if you wish to be a bit less uncouth, you could perhaps consider the class and fabulosity provided by Scoots White. Though it can take some practice to get used to planning her moves out ahead of time to maximize the temporary power bonuses provided by White or the disruption provided by showy cards, these decks are generally fairly straightforward to aggregate. Oh my god. I am just mixing words up today.
You're fine.
Generally, straightforward aggro, so they do tend to see a fair amount of play at all levels, from players just starting to build their own decks to placements in North American Continental's top 16, as is our example deck here. At the top end of specializing this for aggro, you'll likely find RTO and Nightglider 3-ofs, however it's also fairly easy to adapt Scoots White to a slower, more tax-focused strategy, which, ironically enough, tends to be cheaper to build. Block and even Pauper are familiar territory to Scoots White, as there are many substitutes for the high-end cards within those formats. As mentioned earlier, the aggro variants of these decks often require planning a turn or two in advance to ensure that you can make the most out of your action tokens. For example, AK Yearling generally shouldn't be moved with Scootaloo's ability because the temporary power will fall off before it can be useful, but sometimes it's correct to position her at the other problems so a cybernetic limb actuator can be used a turn later. Depending on what build is being used, farming is probably one of the larger threats to this deck. There's only a limited set of tools in blue-white to address this. Against certain kinds of control, however, this deck may shine because it's just too fast for the control to keep contained.
So, who wants to talk point acceleration?
Me. I want to talk point acceleration.
Blue,
I want to talk
white.
a lot of it.
So, playset of Nightglider, playset of RTOs. How many limit? Oh, no limb actuators in this particular deck.
No, not in this particular deck, but
No,
as
but,
a thing that you could be running
yeah.
in blue-white, yes.
Playset of the vote. I mean, you're never going to be behind on bones.
That is more point acceleration, yeah.
Technically, it is.
Well, that's point acceleration.
I used it as point acceleration.
Yeah, but you also weren't running an aggro deck.
No, I was not.
Yes, you are correct in that is point acceleration of the form of, and you're not going to food fight me.
Fair enough, yeah.
I'll just go ahead and take my 6 or 7 points over here if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Let's see, are you playing Rutherford? No? Okay, the vote. Also, you're not stopping this turn.
Right. Also, it's a song. Also, may I direct your attention to the 3 Dance Fevers that are present here?
Yeah. Yeah, not only can you not stop me, I got 2 free power.
And this, I'm noticing, Rarity is here for entry, but also it is very worthwhile in this deck to actually cutie marker for her showy.
Yep.
Because throwing that up at the problem, even exhausted, that again applies, just like in the eccentric and the white-pink. I mean, the pink Scoots before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of rarities in this deck, actually. We've got the Philly rarity, we've got RTO, of course, but we've also got Hasty rarity.
Yeah, that's a pretty tech choice here, too.
Yeah, and, like, you're not frequently going to be playing her from the discard, but, you know, sometimes you just need to win that face-off.
Also, just for giggles, we've got another set of standstills here.
More standstills. Stand still!
No moving, 350, fine.
There's actually a lot of rarity and art in this particular deck.
Well, as I said, darling, this deck is classy. It doesn't make cardboard box jokes.
It also has 3-point problems. Like, it has 1, 2, and 3-point problems in this deck.
Well, that's only natural. You're running RTO here.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. They've got 18 blue friends.
Yeah. And Scoots is 3 of that. Like, it's not that hard.
That's true, but it's often somewhat
the blue-pink deck did it too. I think both of them? Yeah. Yeah, a bit.
Yeah, I think the more difficult one might be the 2 copies of Unreasonable Demands, just to get your 3 white.
3 white's the harder one, I think.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And do what? This isn't.
Yeah, so and that's being inefficient, like you were complaining about before.
Yeah, no, definitely, Rayler. The big benefit you have with Scootaloo and kind of the shift that you'll see towards her favoring white is the ability to take the most expensive part about using RTO and say, what if I just didn't have to pay that?
Sounds good.
Arguably, the most expensive part is playing her.
I disagree. I think farming problems with RTO gets more expensive over time than just the 3AT to initially play her.
I guess.
Moving her back up again and again and again.
But yeah, pink white, or not pink, blue white.
We know our colors.
Yeah.
I made the same mistake a second ago.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that was 12 decks. That was 12 decks.
Excuse me, I believe you mean Pantone 2562C.
No. Yeah, but yeah, 12 decks, and we're only halfway done.
But those other 12 decks we will be saving for next time.
Yes, we will. So, coming from the reign of Pile, and then moving into something this diverse in Gen Con, and something equally diverse that we're going to see next week when we cover EU Continentals, which were actually a week before this.
Okay, Skitter's got a point there.
Yeah, that's true. The most expensive part of RTO was buying the cards.
Buying them? But I mean, didn't you just win 3 at 2015?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, easy.
Just spend the how much you have to spend to go
Bunch
to
of
Gen Con.
elitists up in here.
Yeah. Look,
How much do you pay
those
on-
cost a lot more.
Nice. Yeah, good job there.
But yeah, so next week we're like Ara said before, we're doing some time travel. We're jumping back to Galacon. Got I think we have 6 decks to cover in Galacon just because we have some overlap in the top 8. And then we're going forward to Brony Can, then PPC, then Babs, and then Everfree.
Yep. And then we can share our thoughts and speculations for what is to come in Defenders of Equestria.
Yeah.
But I don't want another 3-hour slogfest.
I think absolutely none of these decks will make it. Zero of these decks. Every single card that you saw today, ignore them all.
Rubbish.
They're all bad cards.
Rubbish.
All right, sure. There you go. There's Silver Spanner 7. You can't use any of the cards included in any of these lists that we covered in our 2-part stream.
Yes, that actually is Silver Spanner 7.
Wait, really? Is it really?
Yes, that is actually Silver Spanner 7.
That's
I guess
horrible.
I wasn't going to say anything, but you
I know. I've come to know you better over time.
Yep. So, feel free to plan for that now. You have advance warning.
Did someone say play DOE set limited?
Yeah, and I do mean every card. Entry, if it's in any of these deck lists, it's gone.
Oh, no.
That's awful. Well, it's time to play yellow.
Oh, no.
But there's still other entry, but you won't have barrel, I guarantee you that.
No. No, there's some fun stuff to see there.
All right.
Well,
Well, I guess I'm playing One Pace then.
Could you make One Pace?
No, because Globetrotter's still banned. It needs to be Harmony legal.
Dang
Well, you didn't say. Okay, fine.
Harmony legal is always a rule in Silver Spanner.
Dang it.
can't play Guidance Counselor every time?
No. No guidance counselors.
Can I just play 45 guidance counselors?
If I didn't do that, everyone would just be playing my freaking deck. The Nightmare deck. That would be scary.
I disagree.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people.
Yeah, and then the true fans would clearly be playing Disco Pants combo.
Ah, fair enough.
No, I'm sticking true to Rainbow Shine here.
She did something wrong.
Hey, you can play Rainbow Shine again and set 8 before he gets banned somehow.
Anyway,
yes.
So this was the first half of our meta retrospective. It was a blast going through all of these, looking over all these decks again. I forgot some of these things. Chaotic Sparks forgot his own deck. So yeah, this was good. I'm glad we did this, and we're only halfway done. But yeah, I think there's a lot that we can learn from this, and with competitive season right around the corner, I think this will be very informative.
Yeah, I think the big thing to kind of take away from this first bit here is we need to remember that Marks in Time was the only set that most people had access to for a year. In fact, everyone had access to for a year. And as a result, people had to go digging to try to find new things to try in the game and to try to adapt to the meta as it kind of shifted over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we saw a tremendous amount of diversity from BronyCon in July of 2016 to where we are right now, despite there only being one set that was released.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like the decks we're going to be talking about next week, almost all of them are different from all of these decks. Like, very different.
It just shows that there's always room to explore new possibilities with this game, which is really, really cool. It's one of the things that makes me love it.
Especially thanks to Marks in Time. Especially thanks to Marks in Time. Like, oof. And Defenders of Equestria, I think, is going to make exploration even deeper.
Yep, I agree. Well, for those of you who joined us tonight, we are very glad to have had you here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts in the comment section as well. It was fun to chat with you all. If you're looking to watch the second half of our stream, that will be airing a week from tomorrow. So that will be Sunday, June 25th, I believe.
Yep.
25th. That's about right.
Yep, at 7 p.m.
Yeah, our standard time. And do remember to say hi to your dad tomorrow.
Yes. Until then, I think we've pretty much got everything covered here. Anything you guys can think of?
Until next week.
Yes.
Well, let's just do that now. No.
Snack.
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 Hey, you guys know what you need?
Snack. A snack cup.
Well, I was going to say a teacup, but that works too.
We're not
a tea snack.
We're not getting into the teacup jokes yet. We got to keep the snack going.
A teacup snack doll.
Not yet.
Snack cup.
Snack.
A snack.
Snack. All right. Well, we're clearly losing it here. So
yeah. Okay. So
implying
guess
we've
that's
ever
it
had
for
it
today.
Yep, I think that's it for right now. So from all of us here at Commentary is Magic, thank you everyone for joining us. We will see you here in a week and a half. As always, I am Grandpaws.
I mean, a week and a day, and I am Emperor Bugle.
Week and a day.
All right, Cat.
Living Snickver.
We'll see you soon.
Bye. And no, Railer, we didn't.